items on the agenda. It is 7:01 PM. It is July 16th. I'm calling the Building and Housing Committee to order. We stole an hour from the joint meeting because we were informed there's a special council meeting coming up. And the mayor has an ordinance that he is submitting to council to repeal the short-term rental ordinance we had passed and to substitute that with a total ban on short-term rentals in the city. And then we also had another ordinance that we had discussed internally in the committee about reporting requirements for the Housing and Community Development Department. And we had a robust discussion about that last time. So those two things are on that special council committee agenda. So we would need to make recommendations either to approve or to reject either or both of those ordinances. So let's take the ordinance that the mayor submitted on it doesn't have a number yet. I imagine Kelly's given it a number. The short-term rentals of residential properties prohibited. All right, so I'll just open it up for discussion. Anybody want to chime in, please do so. Councilman King.
Thank you. So the impetus that the mayor is saying behind this is that there's going to be potentially changes in state law coming down the
Right.
road. And I was wondering if the law director could speak to those changes and
Yes.
how that might affect us.
Present iteration of the legislation before the state legislature would ban communities from banning short-term rentals unless you had an ordinance on the books prior to the passage of the state legislation. So
House Bill 109 regards local regulation, taxing, and taxing of short-term
Yes.
rentals. Okay.
So there's just a little bit of history. I think 3 years ago, there was legislation that would prohibit local communities from having any short-term rental regulations, and that, some efforts in the Ohio Municipal League and other entities was squashed 3 years ago. So it's come back in kind of a different form. It would only allow an application fee of $25. Communities could charge that. I think ours is $250 right now. And then on a renewal application, you couldn't charge anything, but the main concern is that you would be prohibited from instituting any ban on short-term rentals going forwards. That was the mayor's concern that, in past years, the legislature hasn't come back into session till September. There's talk about some of the property tax issues that next month they will be in session. I don't think they'll be dealing with the short-term rental ordinance, but I guess anytime, from September to the end of the year, this thing could pass, the window would shut. So that was his concern.
Mr. Bryan, my understanding is if we didn't ban them and the legislature took the action that they did, the ordinance that we passed last year would apply and would be grandfathered in and we could.
That's correct.
Okay,
We may have to make some slight changes, like I mentioned, to the application fee and those types of things, but largely our ordinance would survive and act, under the current iteration.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you. I just had two questions. One is, if we kept the ordinance on the books and let's say a year from now, we see that it needs to be tweaked, how does that correlate?
We
with-
would be allowed to amend it,
We would allow to, okay,
as long as it doesn't conflict with any of the provisions of whatever's passed.
okay. I guess my next question is just to the group is, we spent quite a lot of time discussing this and I thought we were pretty much in agreement. We all compromised a little bit. That's why I was a little taken aback that this was proposed, because I think the mayor was part of that discussion also.
I have no idea how it came out. I will tell you, I spoke with a short-term rental person in the city who actually does a very good job. The house has never been complained about. There, I think there was one party, but the neighbors called him and said, "Eh," and he took care of it. He screens his tenants. I mean, he's very serious. What, in my discussion with him, he has been renting to people, generally for 2 weeks, where they're coming into the Cleveland Clinic and their family comes in and one is either undergoing a major operation and that way they're not having to stay in a hotel. If they have children or pets that they bring with them, because his house is dog friendly and his yard is gated, they're able to bring their pet in that, and because the clinic's just down the hill, that has become a positive thing. He also has people that are coming in for conferences that may be a week long or where they're working on a research project with somebody at Case or the medical hospitals where their stay is like 2 to 3 weeks. They may rent for that period of time, which still holds it. The other thing that he said with short-term rentals, and I had not thought of this, is when somebody leaves, the owner actually comes back to the property to inspect it because there's a deposit. And the deposit is used for repairs or it's returned to the person who rented. That means actually our short-term rental owners are physically on site more often than our long-term rental owners, which means if you want to re-rent the property to somebody on a rotating basis like that, you literally have to work to make sure your property is up to date. That, and in talking to him, he acknowledged you do have people who don't care. That is why we adopted the ordinance that we did to require registration, to require that we have very strict rules about when noise can happen. I mean, there's a 10 o'clock cutoff time to shut down the party house aspect, but still allow legitimate rentals. So after talking to him, I am less likely on a personal level to support a band. I think we have an opportunity to accept we're going to have some rentals and some will be used because that's now become, I guess, a much more wanted way. Instead of doing hotels, people would rather rent a house and stay on a short-term basis. Yes, Miss Davis who wants to say, no, ban it.
Well, only because in a perfect world, that's a perfect Airbnb.
Mhm.
But the reality is that it's majority of Airbnbs are being used for parties. I mean, I read an article all the way in Honolulu and they were trying to figure out how to get control of this issue. And that article was stating that maybe cities should go after the platforms because they can't get any responses from the owners. Because even if they're registered, For example, the issue that we had with the couple last time. Even if they're registered, that's not going to give immediate relief for a problem that's happening at that present time. I can have the application, I can have the person who's on 24-hour call, but what is that really going to do?
Well, here's what I would say. Even if we ban short-term rentals, do you think they're gonna go away, Miss Davis?
No, because the one you spoke about is an unregistered Airbnb.
Well, there's a lot of unregistered ones in
Absolutely.
this city.
Absolutely.
And right now, we're not doing anything about them because you have been told not to. And we need to acknowledge that. That is not your department's fault.
So even going back even further, sometime last year, I honestly didn't know. I asked the question. I was told it had not passed. It was still in discussion. There is nothing created to even take an application
I'm aware of that.
for the Airbnb.
Yes, but you've never been able to get to that point because the department was told to just leave it. And I know that. When I bring that up, it's not a critique. It is, remember, our meetings are public, Miss Davis. I want people to know that the housing department is not at fault here. Okay, that's why I bring it up. And the mayor has very clearly said, he has told you not to enforce that ordinance. That's public. The reality is, even if we're still going to have them, but we have more tools than just banning them. What do we do? I mean, somebody has a party. What are we gonna do? Tell them no? How are we gonna handle that? We're gonna handle it the same way we do now. We'll call the police and the police will come out. And then do we apply nuisance laws? Do we declare the house a nuisance? I mean, we have some tools in our hands.
Well, under
Mr.
the ordinance, we can pull their license.
Well, if they don't have a permit to
Right,
pull,
yes, yes.
but we have more tools because we also have penalties in there that we can apply if they are not registered. And that gives us a hammer we can swing. Banning them just doesn't, I just don't think that it makes sense. That's all, since we have an ordinance. Anybody else want to ban it? Ms. Sachs?
Thank you. Those examples that you provided were very compelling. And there are ways to deal with it when you're allowed to deal with it. But also John Carroll University is going through this transformation. I would imagine that there are parents and families and when, people move in and they move out, like there are all kinds of opportunities for people to use the short-term rentals in a way that supports our community. So I'd like to add that as an example as well. Thank you.
Yeah, because I'd hate to have things unregulated where the kids use them as party houses. Mr. King, you look like you're about ready to say something.
No, I think we talked about this extensively then it went away, and then we talked about it extensively again. I think we struck a good balance of allowing Airbnbs, but limiting their scope within the city. There's provisions in there to make sure they don't take over an entire street or area. It gives us a mechanism to revoke and to punish bad actors. I think we have a good ordinance on the books, and we might need to tweak it a bit once it goes into effect. But we really haven't had an opportunity to see what it looks like yet in action.
I would entertain a motion to recommend to council that we not approve the banning of short-term rentals. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passes. That takes care of that. And the other ordinance that's up for discussion is 2025-27. That was the monthly reports. This was an addition. This sort of tracks with what the building department's currently doing with permits. There was some question about how does this, how we can pull this stuff out of citizen serve. And the amount of additional time that things may take. The other thing on the special council meeting is the coordinator position, which right now from finance sounds like it'll probably be approved, which would give the department that person. And when that person is hired with maybe looking at their ability to handle complex computer programs might help, that they could then be able to do the runs that would allow for this type of data to come to the committee. The reason it was proposed was that when we went to, we had in our ordinances a requirement for the building department to supply the city council and the mayor with, I think it was supposed to be monthly or weekly reports as to the number of permits that are being generated. That was for two reasons. Number one, it allows the city council, which doesn't have that, we don't get good reports from the administration today. We just don't. It provided information that then allowed council people to begin following up on things. It helped us to see, if you take a good look at them, those of you that do, the amount of actual monetary work that is being done in the city of University Heights on a weekly basis. And boy, I can't wait until you guys in building get a little bit more updated. I would appreciate it, because then we don't have to nag the two of you and say, did this person get a special permit for their garbage that's on the tree lawn? But that kind of stuff actually helps. And I know for Councilman Cooney, he was using it to track, do we have the information that we needed about dumpsters that were popping up, where he was checking with Bill if they had come in for dumpster permits, because that is a way we finally have begun catching houses that have flipped over to that were bought on foreclosure, especially because they were able to bypass housing. They don't come in for point of sale. And we've got flippers actually doing permitting work without getting permits. The problem with that, yes, it's a pain in the butt to get a permit. It's a pain in the butt to pay for the permit. But the reality is, because the work is inspected, the person who buys that house has a reasonable chance that what was done correctly and to code. And if we want our housing stock to improve, we need things done to code. Our houses are older. When things are changed, you can cause massive problems in the long run, where you've got somebody who thinks, oh, I know enough about electricity to do all of this. And the person who buys that house finds himself in a horrible mess. I think that was a positive step, and that's why I introduced this. So this will be up, and now it's not, we checked. I checked with Mr. Bryant, that ordinance is not an emergency, but it would be on first reading. So we have the opportunity, instead of having to have a second meeting when another special meeting gets called, to make a recommendation to council as to passage, even though we wouldn't be voting on this at the meeting on in a week.
The one point, I mean, you could suspend the rules and pass it. It just wouldn't be effective for 30 days.
Okay, I don't think we really want to push it through, Mr. Bryan. I think, and we also, I think everybody recognizes that it'll take time to implement. That isn't the thing, we want this tomorrow. But we need it to make sure that we're moving forward to implementing it within the next 6 months. I mean, I would think that would be a goal. So on that, anybody have any comments?
So separately from the reports that the building department would send, the housing reports are absolutely different in every way.
Mhm.
So on the first one, when it's asking for the point of sale, there's a county report that comes to each city that tells you what properties has changed title monthly. So in addition to that, what would this report be reporting different from what they have already compiled?
Well, knowing that the number of houses that have changed in location that have changed title does not tell us if they've come in to get a point of sale inspection.
It won't, but it will tell the department, which would then lead to additional action.
That's right.
So
Until that action is taken, you don't have to do a report on that.
let me make sure I'm understanding. You want a report that will tell you all of the point of sale applications that was submitted in the previous month.
Yeah, that's all.
Right, applications and inspection.
And the address, that's all. If you have 10 point of sale applications, and let's say you got 22 property transfers, all you gotta do is report the 10. And just the addresses they're at, that's all. You don't have to give any other detail.
But, so the intent of this is what?
To keep council up to date on point of sales that are inspected or they've come in for an actual point of sale. So we do not have to say, ooh, there's a dumpster. Did they come in for a point of sale inspection? Or to sign up for it,
But
to actually file for point of sale.
But does a dumpster always mean that the house has sold?
That's fine. People can have dumpsters and they're cleaning out their houses and there's no change. Point of sale tells us that house has sold. There's going to be a title transfer and the individual who bought it has shown up at the housing department and has said, I need a point of sale inspection. That's what it tells us. That's all we're looking for.
Actually, it does not, because we have point of sale applications that are submitted all the time
Good.
that don't change title. They're
That's
submitted
right.
by the
Then
seller.
we'd like those point of sale applications.
Okay.
This is not the way this is written, Miss Davis, is to minimize what we want from you.
It's actually in addition to,
Well,
it's
we
adding
get,
to.
okay, number one, we get no reports from you right now. So it's not in addition to, I don't know if you're submitting a report to the mayor or not. We get nothing in writing. Period. Even though at times when you've reported to council and I've requested things come to us in writing, we still have not received them.
I also want to, from the September up until March, I have been by myself.
We're aware of that.
And I'm digging my way out, in addition to training 2 new people.
Mhm.
So that's all I'm saying. So
So-
working a department
here-
by myself
Okay,
and then training two new people, it's July,
Marcel,
but
you're
I'm digging
thinking
my
of
way
it as
out.
an instantaneous thing. It's not. But it needs to go in the books, so you know what council needs from your department. So that you can begin to plan for and submit and get to a point where you can submit this. Nobody's gonna bark if you give us progress reports. And when this gets passed, I just said, this isn't something that we need to see in 30 days, but you need to know what we need so that you can plan on it. You've done a lot of changes in the department, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, and we know you have. So now what we're doing is saying, here is a set of things that any city council needs from their housing department. Any department. Because we cannot operate without information. It's, the city council is not divorced from the functions of the city. Things like this provide support for your budget. They provide support that shows the performance of your department. These are tools that if you choose to use them, show what a darn good job your department is doing. And I think that is not a negative thing.
Okay.
I know. Okay. I don't know if you've worked for somebody that makes this kind of stuff negative,
I have
and you
not.
may have. Okay. But this is the kind of stuff that councils can actually build on. To be able, when we brought up legislation, it comes from other cities. When we talked about the inspection requirement for the apartments, do you realize in the entire discussion before you told us, no one told council how many apartment buildings we had or how many units were in those apartment buildings? When you brought it up, we turned around and we made major changes to that, didn't we?
You did?
You gave us information that allowed us to do a better job at both ends. Because we could accommodate the differences in apartment buildings. This is just as much a tool like that as that was. It's merely a tool.
Okay. When it comes to the exterior inspections, they're only conducted 3 months out of the year.
That's fine. Then you're only having to report those 3 months out of the year.
So to make sure I understand, you want to know the properties that an exterior was performed and the violations for that property.
Yeah. Because
The
we're
number, the number.
the
I mean,
number.
If you're inspecting like a whole quadrant of the property, we don't expect you to say this section of the city, we did so-and-so number of inspections. Out of those exterior inspections, we found so many violations. And
Well, that would
the
be,
addresses, yes, but I mean, if you're inspecting 400 properties, you can describe it as, this section of the city, so everyone understands.
well, so online, we have updated the website to identify the quadrant that's being inspected this
Right,
year.
we know that.
And then there's a PDF that tells you all of the addresses that was inspected.
Okay,
So that's the quadrant of the city,
yep,
the inspections,
uh-huh.
but then
The number of violations. the number of violations that were listed. So that we know in a section of the city, are we really having 800 violations? And then when we go to the next section, we only have 200. That tells us we have an issue in that section, other section of the city. And can the city, not just your department, come up with a program to address? Then we can ask you, what were the major problems?
So
We
you,
know sidewalks are challenging.
so you specifically want the violation, to know what the violations were, not the number of homes.
Just the number of exterior violation notices, the number, just the number. We're not asking you for, if you would give it to us, it'd be wonderful. If it's 800 violations and 600 of them are for cracks in sidewalks, we'd like to know that.
So you are asking for,
No, I'm
No,
not
not in
asking
your-
for it. I said, if you could, it would
Okay,
be
okay.
wonderful. I'm not asking you for it.
so then
I just want the number.
issue.
If the number is really high, then in a meeting with the building committee might say, okay, can you break that out? Because this one's really high. Is it painting? Is painting a problem? What's the problem? Because we can't come up with things if we don't know what problems are. Mrs. Sachs.
Thank you. I guess in a nutshell, it would show patterns, trends, scope. It would just help us meaning everyone, see, oh, you've identified something, and how can we help our residents better? You know, if like to, Ms. Weiser's point, if, and to your expertise, you know, if you see something sticking out, it can only help the residents for us to communicate, and maybe you might even have recommendations that would be phenomenal. Then you would feel empowered through your work to really help people and do something about it, in a different, looking at it together in a different way.
We,
Thank you.
in healthy cities where councils work well with mayors, we have the ability to say, hey, we have this much in the budget. Can we increase maybe a program that we have for grants to help this, get this resolved? But if we don't have that kind of information, we work blind and we can't make those suggestions. The whole goal here, I know residents go, oh my God, here comes the inspector. I realize that, Markel. And I realize there are some residents that are very reluctant to improve their properties. And those are the ones that are tough for you guys to deal with. Most of our residents, though, are willing to work with you, but we can't help in that if we don't know. We have that grant program. Very few people in University Heights qualify for it. And we've talked about in this committee, maybe making a recommendation to change that requirement and raise it. In other words, they can earn more money and still qualify for that grant program, because we put $15,000 aside every year and our residents can't use it. But we have single parent families where they might have 3 or 4 kids. They're working, they're juggling, they have X amount of dollars, but then we come along and say, you got to fix 3 sidewalk squares. And they find themselves pressured monetarily. That's the kind of thing we can do, because we can change the dollar amount in the program that helps that program. It allows your department to be able to make that determination with that person and say, we can help you do this. That's the kind of thing, if we get good communication going between housing and council, where we have positive effects. So I'm serious. Don't take this as punitive. This is not about that. And it's not about trying to make more work for you. It's trying to get information that really would help us in what we do.
Okay.
Okay? And I think, you know, like the apartments, because we have them here somewhere, the multi-unit apartments, you already said they only come in what, in June? They come in to renew their registrations?
Well, so the current change for the apartments and the 1 and 2 family was that they have the expiration, or the recent
Yeah,
change, I'm
the
sorry.
1 and 2s are different. I know.
Well, they still have the same expiration of
They
May
do?
31st.
Okay,
So I have a couple of questions about that as well, and I know me and Brad had spoke. In the current ordinance, it states application, payment. If violations are issued, the certificate is not given to them until all violations are cleared. I would like some clarification on that.
Yeah, we changed that for the the apartment one. It's
Or
no
for the
longer
1
there.
and 2.
Right, it hasn't been changed. We still have to get that change passed. So. But
it's just
I'm
application.
okay with you treat it that way now.
Yeah, but you have applications filed. It's just when they apply, that's all.
Right, I'm not saying, we're not talking for purposes of this ordinance. We're talking about, I think.
Oh, something else. Okay.
Well, because it says the,
Implementing
the number of permits issued. So to make sure I'm understanding, the permit that's issued is the certificate once all the violations are cleared.
Right,
So that's,
Yeah. So until you do the permits, you don't have to report them. In other words, in month 1, let's say it's, and I'm just gonna pick a month as an example, in June. If you had 10 apartment owners come in and file an, let me finish.
not apartment. I'm talking about 1 and 2
Okay,
family.
1 and 2 family.
Mhm.
If you had 10 1 and 2 families come in and file, then the next month, when you do the report, it's just 10 of them, period. That's it.
But that's, what I'm
That's the applications.
but it asks for the number.
Yes, but you don't have to give that yet. You don't have to respond to that until the permits are issued. They're separate.
So that would mean that so with all of them having the exact same, which has created absolute chaos, having the same expiration, you're talking about over 1,000 rental units that expire on May 31st of every single year, and they don't go hand in hand with the inspection.
That's
It-
fine.
It's chaos.
Yeah, here's the thing. The number of applications is one part of it. You don't have to reply, you don't have to give us in registrations, permits, inspections for each one unit. In other words, what's the total number in that month that came in and just registered? They applied.
right. So part of that information is, we have all these applications coming in, it'll tell council. And if the inspections are less, that tells council you're not able to do all the inspections in the month that the application comes in. Because
And
there's too
that's
many, and
So
they know how you're.
going back, they went hand in hand, I believe in 2021 was the last year where they went hand in hand. Everything was every 2 years. So I just want everyone to know that the department has to touch every single address every single year.
Mhm.
Versus when it was every 2 years for everything, they gave us the off year to play catch up and to clean up everything. But now every year we're
Isn't it
touching,
still 2 years?
no, they're separated. So registration is
Oh,
yearly,
registration, right. You're right.
and then
Inspection's
inspections,
different, right, yes.
but the inspections go under that registration if it's time for an inspection.
Right.
So
That's-
you never have a year to play cleanup. So you're touching thousands of addresses every single year.
What you're talking about, what I'm hearing is the mechanics. Where you were saying previously it was handled this way, that they applied and then because it was every 2 years, the between, they went and did something. That's mechanical for the work you do. That is something that if it's in the ordinance, see, this is, again, this is informational.
Yeah, Ms. Weiser, we still have to amend the 1 and 2 family that we discussed it. We've gotten a long way. We didn't get that over the finish line.
Okay,
we
but
need to
for
do the same
purposes
thing.
of reporting,
Right.
Markel, what I'm trying to tell you is reporting is different. All we're asking is in the month of June, how many of them did your department do an application on? How many of them did you do a permit on? And how many of them did you do an inspection on? They don't have to be the same thing. We just need to know, you're pointing out how busy you are. That would help tell us how busy you are. So when you come in with a revised ordinance, we already have a base of information. So we're working at a totally different plane with you. But because nothing was coming to council, every time something came to us, not you, but anybody from your department came in cold. And that causes issues. So when I say this isn't punitive, think of it as this is not asking you to give us all of that stuff that you have to do for one rental all at once. All it's saying is in the course of the month of June, how many applications did you have? How many permits did you issue? And they may not be related to the same application. Doesn't matter to me. How many permits did you issue? Because to issue the permit and to handle the application are two separate tasks.
They-
Two
They are
separate.
not.
Well, when you issue that permit, you've already had the application, right? So
That's
you
the-
took
that's-
care of that and now you're doing a permit. That's what I mean by they're separate as physical. Somebody physically is dealing with that permit, right? But it's past the time that the application was there. That's why it's two tasks that one person is doing in your office, which means their job consists not just of an application, it consists of a permitting too. And then it consists of doing the additional task. So you see the amount of time on each one? See how I just grew it? You give us that information, we understand that. And that is helpful. Very helpful.
Okay.
Okay? When you look at this, try not to look at what you're looking at physically doing your job. Just look at what's in this month only for that. And it doesn't have to connect. It doesn't have to hook up. It's just, we want to know how much of this, how much of this, how much of that. That's all. It's easier than you're making it is what I'm trying to tell you.
It absolutely is not.
Huh?
It absolutely is not. It's not. It's very tedious. It may flow smoothly later, but it's very, and I think I gave the example of the trash pickup. There are 45 steps to input a trash pickup. That's time consuming.
Mhm.
And that's just a trash pickup.
Mhm.
So this is so much
No,
more.
what tells me is if there's 45 steps to input a trash pickup, we're doing something wrong. Either citizen serve is a problem.
I want to
or-
take a look at that.
Yeah,
That
45
makes
steps.
no,
you
I
shouldn't
mean, I
have
don't know if I'm
45
allowed
steps.
to.
I mean, I
but
have,
That's my specialty. Program.
Sure.
I'm very
Implementation,
serious.
evaluation,
You
and
I
shouldn't
have it typed
45
out
steps.
for training purposes. And
nobody has IT on their job description.
Yeah,
Yes,
bluntly put, there's something wrong if you got 45 steps.
you have no one to go to. I want to see it on someone's job description.
So.
Unbelievable.
Any comments from the committee? A motion from the committee. I move we suggest to approve it. When it comes up for vote, it's probably not gonna come up for vote on the 23rd. It's just on first reading.
So you already moved? I'll second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Those were the two items to work through. I thought we would have more of a discussion about banning short-term rentals.
Did pretty good.
And we learned something new, 45 steps to enter. Something's wrong.
I'm just.
Either citizens or, how many steps do you have to put in a permit, Bill?
I mean, that obviously varies.
What?
It varies, but it is extensive. There's a lot of repetitive or repeated steps because data is, the way we fund departments, like you guys are mentioning, that's how we show what we can and cannot do. So we make sure, so like on a permit, I may be inputting the type of construction of the structure, so that we have that data. I have to report that to the state every year.
Well, okay,
So it's that kind
yeah,
of thing.
you've got-
I don't do those, but it, but it,
We'd end up with 45 steps because at the user end, at my end, if I want a special permit.
Well, you,
can.
you
I
can't go
online.
in there to do it.
Huh?
That, you can't go in there to put it in through Citizen Serve. It's manually put in the office. If you're putting it in, then you're using the job form that's on the city's website. So
Yeah.
there's two different inputting.
So the resident is filling out a jot form that then goes to you to input?
No, so it's my understanding that the job form goes directly to Alan, I believe. But the special pickups where they're actually coming in to either write a check or pay in person, the individual, which used to be myself, was actually putting that data into Citizen Serve. So I'm doing the processing when they come in person. So it's two different systems.
Just
I'm not
Quick-
even gonna go there.
I did.
question.
Sure.
Does Citizen Serve allow for residents to be able to
There you go.
enter data?
It's still going to be the same.
Well, not if.
But,
not if
but
they're
I
paying
will
the
ask
fine.
them if the special pickups
Y-
can be submitted.
Yeah, if there
directly
was a
from-
form rather than having them do jot form.
Well, it is a form because that then goes
Yeah.
to Alan. So it's still a form. All of that information goes onto the form.
Right, but it sounds like we have two separate processes. If we had the resident enter the data into Citizen Serve. Just,
They'd have restricted access.
yeah, it seems like,
Something's weird.
So
She'll never-
it could be solved by just going cashless.
I think there's
Because
another
then
way. Yeah,
meaning,
that's one.
because most of the people that come in are either paying by check or with cash. Usually people that.
Oh, I see, cash. You mean an alternate, so not
Yeah.
free.
Because that means the
No,
other
yeah,
part of
yeah.
it is-
No, 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 no.
the other part of it is the department has to keep track of the money coming in, which is an extra function. Whereas when it goes through citizen online, all of that information is in and is just electronically transferred. So if I do it online, you never really see it. The permit gets generated though out of Citizen Serve.
No, the only time I would see it is if someone says, hey, I paid for a special pickup.
Okay, so this is helpful.
Mhm.
So what we found is maybe we need to have a terminal there and have them enter all the data for you. And then just, all you gotta do is add the money.
Well, so Cleveland Heights,
What about Cleveland Heights now?
they do that, but then that's a disturbance to who's sitting right there in front of them. Because then people need help. How do I? Where do I?
Well, no, she makes a good point, Sherry. What I'm gonna do is I'll entertain a motion to adjourn and then we can continue to. I'll second those in favor. Aye. Okay, that's adjourned. The there are, especially our older residents.
I don't know if we
Really
can call
hot.
point of order since we're adjourned.
Yeah, now with the report.
Yeah. Uh,
Thank you, thank you,
thank you, Bill.
thank you. Thank you. Stand up.
See you.
Right.
What happened to the mayor? I thought he was supposed to be here tonight.
His wife had surgery today, so.
Oh, she had to have, what the heck did she do?
I think it was broken in places.
Oh, Lord.
Has he been without surgery for like a week?
Planning commission meeting, yeah.
They what, yeah, I figured that. So, what did she do?
So, yeah, week and a half, one morning.
That's terrible.
Yeah, she.
You should never fall. Falling is bad for your health. I gotta turn off that computer.